Hello, abnormal family. I have looked into yet another case. Luckily, and thank God, this case ended in the child being found alive also. So these at least have what I consider a good outcome. This case here had a lot of things against the child that the child, in my opinion, should not have survived this encounter or the conditions of this case, and I will explain that to you as we go further into the case. The name of the child in this case is going to be Casey Hathaway. The date that Casey Hathaway went missing was January 22nd, 2019. One of the things I noticed while looking at this case was pretty interesting to me after doing the case of Jackie, the one we had just done, was Jackie Copeland. He was also 3 years of age, and this child here is 3 years of age. Now, we all know, and we can't go deep into it on the regular part of YouTube right here, but we know that these creatures, they like the number 3 or the number 33. And I'm sure a lot of you know that. If you don't, you will have to Google that because I can't go into that. That is unfortunately one of the things we are not allowed to cover on regular videos as much as I wish I could. Now, the location that this child went missing was in Ernul, North Carolina. I might be pronouncing that wrong, just so you all know, it is Ernul. The child in this case was missing for 55 hours. He was located alive. Now, a very interesting thing, you all know that I came up with the moon phase. That was my theory. And again, this child that goes missing is a waning gibbous, which falls right into my theory. I thought that was pretty interesting. So, moving on and into the case, let me see if I can get it to scoot over just a little bit so I can see the whole thing here. Maybe that'll work. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, guys. So, Casey was a 3-year-old boy who was playing in the backyard of his grandparents' house. Then all of a sudden, Casey goes missing. The grandparents go to look for him. He's not there. Casey's gone. Where could he have been? Or where could he have gone? Well, there's a lot of cases right now of children that go missing just right out of the backyards of people's homes. And again, that leads me to believe that these things are, they're watching these children before they ever go missing, or even these adults before they ever go missing. I believe that they are stalking these kids, adult women that they imprint on until the opportunity arises for them to be able to strike. I would even bet that in a lot of these cases, before kids go missing or before adults go missing, something else is going on the property. I bet that they are having knocking sounds, they're having, the whistles, they're having things moved around. There is something out of the ordinary, I believe, going on at these properties or around these properties that is not ordinary. And I think that a lot of these signs are not looked at because we are taught not to believe in these things. They're not supposed to exist. So when we hear those things, a lot of people put them off as different things. Oh, the house is cooling down, so it's popping, or the whistle outside. Well, it could have been a bird, or it could have been somebody. There's always that. People always look for that excuse, and I think they don't just look for it as an excuse. I think they look for it as a way to calm themselves also, to where they don't have to worry, because it's, I think, maybe be a calming mechanism that people use to cope maybe with things. I'm not sure, but I definitely think we should pay attention to our surroundings, like we talk about on keeping our head on a swivel. That also does include paying attention to things that have been moved around that are not normal in your environment. If something is out of place in your environment, I think you need to take interest in it and find out why. Now, we're talking about a 3-year-old kid that went missing out of the backyard. The area that this child had went missing in, the area had freezing temperatures, okay? The temperature was freezing with the child missing, and the temperatures at night were freezing. They had heavy rainfall and freezing rain. Heavy. Rescuers even feared the worst and were absolutely baffled whenever this child was found alive, because he went against all the odds that this child should not have survived 55 hours out in this environment. And I did look into that. And as I looked into it, you'll see I have a section that I do on every video where I take my dive and look a little deeper and give my opinion. But part of what I found was, in freezing rain, guys, in the woods, an adult would start to suffer hyperthermia within approximately 10 minutes. Not 10 hours, 10 minutes. A 3-year-old surviving alone in the woods in freezing rain, freezing temperatures, heavy downpours, and rain at 5 hours. This is 5 hours. A child would have less than a 5% chance of surviving. This child survived every bit of this in 55 hours. Let that sink in real quick. Just look at yourself as an adult right now. You're lost in the dark woods. It's pouring down rain. It's freezing rain for 55 hours. That's a long time to survive in those kind of conditions. I don't think I could do it without shelter. And I for sure don't believe a 3-year-old could, considering the statistics say he had a 5% chance in just 5 hours, not 55 hours. Okay. So another thing I was looking at is, for days, hundreds of searchers covered miles of wooded and rough terrain on the ground and in the air. They were using FLIR. They used dogs. They used hundreds of people that were searching for this child, and they were walking through water. It was rough terrain. They said it was bad terrain, which is, pretty common in these cases. They did not find anything. The dogs did not hit anything. The dogs did not pick up a trail. Pretty common. Pretty common. So it makes you wonder how they cannot locate these children using the state of the art equipment. I have a theory, and I'll share it with y'all a bit later. In the end, it was a woman walking her dog who heard a small voice crying out for his mom. Again, it makes me wonder, because of all the search teams that were out there looking for this child, all the search teams, right? They can't locate this child. So a lady is out walking her dog. She hears a child that is crying in the woods, and ultimately leads to him being located. So it makes me ask the question again. These creatures know there's hundreds of people looking for them. You got stuff in the air. You got FLIR in the air. I'm pretty sure they can see that through their eyes. I think they do have that capability. So do they make sure that child is found so the search stops? Because number one, they don't want to be blamed for it because they know they're going to be hunted down. And number two, it stops the search whenever they quote humans find what they're looking for, right? So Shane Greer, or Grier, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, who located Casey, said authorities were responding to a tip, and they said the lady said she'd heard a kid crying in the woods and the boy calling for his mother. When they arrived at the scene, Grier found the boy 50 yards into the woods, tangled in some briars. Okay, again, back to my theory. 50 yards is not that far off into the woods. So again, it makes me wonder, did this creature bring that child up there knowing that this lady was going to hear the child? I mean, 50 yards is far enough away to where she could hear the child crying for his mom, but also this creature would be able to keep itself hidden. Is that why that the child was heard and nothing was seen? Because the creature knew, hey, 50 yards in the woods, they're not going to see me. I can leave the child here. She's going to hear the child whimpering, the child will be found, that, all this is going to stop. Everything will be fine, right? That's my theory. I don't know if that's why they're found like that, but it's just one of my theories. You know, I think that they are smart enough to know that they want this to stop. Now, I think, they stated in the report, they said, I think that for the weather conditions, he fared very well, Grier said. We are very fortunate to where we are. I agree. He did not survive this alone. That is my opinion. He had to have help in the woods. Again, 5% chance of survival in those conditions, 5 hours. He was gone 55. So, yeah, I agree with you, sir. He did not do this alone. It gives me a headache sometimes when they say things like that. He was cold, but he was verbal in command to us. The more we warmed him up, the more active he became, Grier said. He is good. He is good, his mother said. He is up and talking, and he has already asked to watch Netflix, so he is good. 55 hours in the conditions that he was in. He should not have survived. And now he's home already wanting to watch Netflix, and he's good. I'm sorry, folks. That just does not work for me. It doesn't sit right. Doesn't even feel right. Now, Sheriff Chip Hughes said that he believes Casey had moved around before the ending of the location where he was found, and that's why they were unable to locate him. Okay, my headache just got worse. You're telling me that we have state-of-the-art aircraft in the sky using FLIR. We have professional people on the ground searching for this child, and you're going to say you can't find him because he was moving around? I will agree with part of that. I believe he was moving around, but he wasn't moving around by himself, and he was not dodging you all by himself. Something was moving him around to where you all were unable to find him. And that's what I think. And honestly, when y'all are using FLIR and you're not finding these children, it honestly takes me to wonder, do they know how to evade FLIR? Do they have that ability in their adaptive camouflage and in their fibers of their hairs? Or are they simply taking the children underground or something like that? What do you all think? The area had freezing temperatures at night, heavy rainfall. Rescuers feared the worst and were absolutely baffled when he was found alive. They repeated that several times. I would be too, considering the circumstances and the percentage of survival. Casey was relatively underdressed. There's another thing. He was underdressed, guys, leaving many to wonder how he even survived the heavy rainfall and freezing temperatures at night. He wasn't even dressed for it. Now imagine as an adult trying to do 55 hours in the woods in freezing temperatures, freezing heavy rain, and you're not even dressed for it. No way, guys. It just does not work that way. Casey was relatively underdressed in those circumstances. Rescuers waded through waist deep water to reach Casey's location. Okay, listen to this. Rescuers went through waist deep water. Casey's 3 years old. How deep would that water be on a 3-year-old? I bet nobody asked that question, did they? He was carried through the water, in my opinion. You know, you go back, and because it bothered me so much, they said that the rescuers waded through the waist deep water and they found him at the location. I was like, there is no way. So I went back, guys, and I actually found how tall Casey Hathaway was at the time he went missing. 28 inches. Casey Hathaway was 28 inches at the time of his disappearance. Something helped him through that area, guys. I'm telling you, that's the only way he could have got there. And in those conditions and in the cold weather like that, you don't go through water over your head and freezing rain without shelter, and especially 3 years old, and survive it. He was also found in an area that had already been searched several times. In my opinion, again, the reason he was found there is whatever had taken him was wanting the search party to find him to end this search. Now, one can argue, they said, that the child was cold and he might have mistaken a bear for a Bigfoot, but authorities at this point are still saying they believe it's a big or a bear. Oh, so it started irritating me even more that they're saying this is a bear that's taking care of a child, and the child has beat the 5% odds and not even dressed for it. So I went and looked, guys, because it was bothering me. Bear experts, these are bear experts, said there are no known cases of wild bears nurturing humans, noting how black bears are generally even afraid of humans, but they would not only approach them with predatory intentions, but they would unalive a child. They would either see them as a threat or a meal. And you're talking about the black bear, which isn't even the meanest and the more docile. If it saw a child out there, bear experts say there are no known cases of any bears taking care of a human, let alone a black bear, and a black bear would have had him for a snack. But the sheriff says, well, it had to be a bear. While there's no modern Bigfoot reports that come out of Craven County, North Carolina, the police department said, which bothered me again, and I went looking. Guess what? That statement is not true. Now, it might have been a little while back, but I dug and I found that not to be so true. There was two articles in 1875 describing encounters with a 5-foot tall ape-like creature that attempted to abduct children, which happened in Kitts Swamp, which is about 2 to 3 miles from the location Casey went missing from. But they'll tell you there is no cases around. Now, young children are being abducted or accompanied with what were described as bears. And if you notice, bears are becoming very, very common. We have the number 3, which is very, very common, 2 3-year-olds that we've looked at so far. Both of those said that they were in the woods with a bear. And a lot of people say, well, why would they say they was with the bear then? Well, that's simple. When you look at a 3-year-old, the only way they know how to express something is something they have experienced. They haven't seen Bigfoot. They probably don't even know about Bigfoot. Most people don't believe in it. He's not a conversation in the front room or a conversation that families have. But kids do know animals, bears, lions, tigers, birds, dogs, cats. They're taught that at an early age. So what he's doing is he is associating what he's seen with the closest thing he knows of that's big and hairy like that, which would be a bear. And that's my opinion. Guys, I hope you're enjoying these. I hope that we're learning from something from these. I hope they maybe help somebody or keep a child from going missing. Don't take your eyes off a child, not even for a little bit, not even in your own backyard. There are so many cases these kids are disappearing from their backyard. I mean, even look at the case of the McNeilis child I done here in Oklahoma. He had just talked to his mom at the kitchen window and went missing, and unfortunately, he was not found alive. All right, guys, keep an eye on them little fellers because there's a lot of evil in this world that want to steal your children, and that's the truth. Thank you for listening, guys. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. Be aware of your surroundings. Keep your children in your sight at all times, and lock those doors. We'll see you on the next one, guys.